Hello, everyone. Welcome to December Daily Story number 6, Decorating Our Christmas Tree. In today's video, I'll be sharing how I create a full interactive flip out photo booklet using that big 10 by 8 photo as the base of the booklet and these photos to create just a beautiful. I just love how this layout come out. So let's dive right into it. I begin by cutting out these photos. I probably have about 10 to 15 photos here. So my initial task was deciding how I would document or have these all fit in. So then I remember that the paisley press kit has the very best greens. They're always some of my favorites, and I felt like it was a great time to use that kit to create this mini interactive type layout. So I chose 10 of my favorite photos or thereabouts. It's probably a bit more. And I had like about 100 photos from putting up the Christmas tree. It's probably more. I narrowed it down to about 60 photos. I thought I was like, oh, great. So really difficult, but I narrowed this down to about 10 just to show the different stages of the tree. The first step is usually my husband putting up the lights and I helping him do that. And then we do the baubles and we just kind of build the tree from there. So I first took this photo when the tree arrived on Friday, where I was touching the tree. And I love that idea of building this page on top of that photo. So this is one of my favorite papers, and I felt like I also wanted it to look like I was holding this paper, even though I'm holding the leaves there. And I just thought for a second that I would cut out that part of the thumb that is pushing out and slide the cover underneath that part of my thumb. I aborted that idea in the end, but I still think it might be something great, like the concept might be something great to play with. Like if it was like just a booklet that I tucked in there that I could pull out, but folding it back and forth would mean I have to stick my thumb onto it and then crease my thumb. So I thought I was getting a bit like freaky. So I decided not to do it in the end, but I'm still leaving this part of the process in case there is something else that you have a photo of and you'd like to cut out a piece of it to just kind of give this impression that the booklet is part of the photo. I thought that's something pretty cool and something that I will probably explore in a later layout. But for now, I just ended up sticking it right next to my finger, which I think is close enough. And yeah, so let's just move on to the next step. So I am deciding to use some tip-in tape for this project. I bought it from Layer by Mail, and it's the first time that I'm using it. And it is designed by Lauren Phelps, who is a member of the planner community who's had a company for a really long time. And so it's like a scotch tape, but there are two strips behind. So you can fold it in two and remove one half. So you place one half onto your paper and one half onto your other surface. And it's called a tip-in tape. So I have the first half down, and now I would probably use a bone folder to get that other part off. But it is a tad tricky to work with, and it is my first time. So I took a while to figure out the best ways to work with it. For me, also keeping in mind that I'm a left-hander, so some things are a bit different in my world. So I'm just trying to fold this back and kind of get the hang of it. So I think after this, I sort of get the hang of it. And so I have my first half down, and then I am simply going to place it right next to my thumb, and then I will I'm still trying to see if I could tuck it in. It's kind of cool, actually. But yeah, I thought that it would probably just be in the way, be an obstruction to the booklet. So I just leave it right next to it. You know, just a quarter inch or so, but still, yeah, I felt like it wouldn't go all the way back like this, and then the tape would probably kind of, anyway, whatever. I decided to leave it like this. So I have gone ahead and I am going to remove the back of the tipping tape. It is like a scotch tape texture, so it isn't quite transparent. It's a bit translucent. And I think especially on something with deep tones like this, it's not exactly transparent. So I would probably use it more with the white things in the future. But seeing it here, it looks quite fine, and I just kind of, you know, pat it down and smooth it out a bit. So this is what the first part or flap of this layout looks like. So then once I have that done, I am going in to center this part of the layout, and I have about two 4x6 photos, and the rest end up being 3x4, thankfully. So I'm just kind of laying it out a bit to see if I like it, how I like it, before committing. I've cut down this photo to about 3.5 by 4.5, maybe, or 3.5 by 5.5, so that I can get a nice good edge, because I really love that plaid. And then I'm looking out how I'd like to flip this bit up with the baby. I guess it could have been like a kind of waterfall as well, but I don't think it would have gotten as many photos to fit if it was a waterfall, because then the others, as you go down, would go off the edge of the lower edge, which you don't want. So just kind of working this out bit by bit, and then once I've worked that out, I will come back in and commit to those. But in the meantime, I felt like I could set up the photos on the backs of the journal cards, because that part would not have really changed. And as I go along, you'd see probably a few tips from me, because in this case, I stuck it down initially, but then I thought I could put the tip and tape, the first half of it, behind the photo, but on top of the journal card, and then tip it on to the photo after. So that's something that I realized would work best a bit later on. So initially I wanted to just put all the journal cards onto the backs of the photos, and then the next step would have been to tip them all in onto the photo and layer them up. But after the first one, I realized that I just have to kind of pace myself and take my time and go bit by bit until it's all done. So that's what ended up happening. But for the wrapping up the joy, or wrapped up in joy, I love these gold foil cards. I thought it would fit really nicely along the plaid. This has been like my gingham season. I love, love, love gingham. You'd see me wearing that pink one in the photos, and I have them in all colors. That was my vibe this year. So very Pladisha, according to one of my friends. But I always love this green plaid, and probably all the plaids from Liz, actually. Yeah, all the plaids have been my favorite in the past. I'm thinking about them. I've loved them all. And so it's really been great to use these this year, and to actually focus a spread on the kit and get to use up quite a bit of it. I've really enjoyed doing that here, and I feel like that was, inspired by prep day, and Jill created a mini book out of the album. I thought that was really cool. She was all the reds and a lot of the reds and stuff in her album, a mini album or mini. But this one I wanted to do it a bit bigger and focus around the 10 by 8 album for me. So just adding in the tip in, realizing that the photo is probably now upside down because it's gonna flip up. So wherever I have the tip in, the photo needs to be facing down. And it's a bit confusing, but it will be the opposite direction of the card in front. And because I don't have two of those cards, I can't print a second photo. I decided that that's the direction I was going to take for this. I take a while to try and figure out how to do this tip in because I felt like it should go behind the photo. But I already stuck the photo down, but there was a gap. There was enough gap for it to fit in, and just didn't quite fit for me. And so, it just took me a while to get it to fit. Eventually, when I realized that I would need to reprint the photo anyway, I was like, okay, great. Let me just stick this down on top of the photo, and then I will put my new photo in the right direction on top of the old one. So that's all done here. We have new photo, we have old tipping, we pull off the excess, fold it back, and then try to put it down. I think also in hindsight, I should have simply scored it first or passed a bone folder over it. So this. I felt like it wasn't straight, but what happened is not it wasn't straight. It was that it was the bone folder part. It wasn't folded along the edge smoothly. So I'm adding these two photos here. I've added a few photos and journaling cards to the left, but still building on it. But while I was committing to that, I felt like I could stick those two on the right hand side because those are the only two that I think I have with, three of us together. That one there has the four of us, but pieces of us and only my daughter's head. And she was seeing lights for the first time. And then I felt like I can just continue tipping in bit by bit and adding in these layers in and out, down, just figuring out how it will fit best and how to get all the pictures to fit in. So my focus and what I always had to keep in mind during this process is that I have X amount of photos left. If I put this photo down or in the middle or where, I will not be able to fit 2 or 3 or 4 more photos, or a 4x6 wouldn't be able to fit here because if I add a tip in the center for the 3x4 card. So just keeping those kind of dynamics in mind whilst building these flippings and flaps. So I love these worded 3x4 cards. However, knowing that one, it's red. On one side, I wanted it to be completely covered. I am cutting my edge of tip-in tape here. I feel like I've gotten the hang of it enough to show you my process on camera. I had quite a few trial and errors before off camera while doing the few that you're seeing on the layout already. So I'm just kind of folding it, doing a lovely crease with my fingers, and then putting that down. And then I would adhere my photo on top of that, which is exactly the process that I would use if I did this with acetate or vellum or cardstock. So that's what I would usually use. I would usually cut a 1-inch piece of any of those, media, depending on what kind of look I'm wanting. And even patterned paper, just depends on what kind of look I'm wanting. And then I would sandwich it two together and then use the other part of the flap to adhere it to whatever my background is. So very similar process. It's just this already has a tape built in instead of having to like glue it to the pieces. So I will need to use this a bit more to get the hang of it. And also to recommend what I think this may be best on paper with like a gloss kind of thing because it is satin versus gloss. So it may look great. I think it will look great on a vellum. I think it will blend in really well with a vellum, but I'll need to test that or on cardstock, which is matte. Um, Also, if it's something that you're covering. So if, for example, like this, where you could see a little bit of the edge ever so slightly, but it's being covered, like things like this, where you don't focus on that, it can work really well. So just kind of laying out my last few photos. These are my last three photos here. Three or four photos here. Um, I think this ended up being back to, oh no, it's not back to front, it's fine. It's so confusing. But anyway, yeah, if you're doing a flip down or a flip up, just making sure that the photo or whatever is inside is in the opposite direction of what's outside. And so just continuing on, because I printed my photos borderless, these smaller photos are a bit larger than what I initially sized them as. So I do have to cut them down a bit. But that's my fault because I sent through all to print as borderless when I was sending through the background. But what I would usually do in cases like that where I have downloaded like 4 pages to a PDF from Canva, I would print the one borderless first and then send through a print for like pages 2 to 4 without the borderless option on just to make sure I get the right sizing, but yeah. So just a tip if you're using Canva, if you have any Canva scrapbooking questions, please feel free to ask me. I've been using it for probably about the past 5 years. I've been using Canva for probably 7 years now. I've been using Canva for scrapbooking for about 5 years and I really love it. So going through now with these last few photos and just, making sure that what I have in mind works well. So in this case, I am putting this photo on the edge because I still have a 4x6 to go in the center. So I'm making sure I leave space for that. And I am doing the flip on the side. And so also trying to keep in mind which side will work best for this situation. And so now that that's done, I'm just folding down that crease quite a bit, just to make sure it's smooth before I go in and pop that tip-in in on one side. And so the journal cards from Paisley Press in the December Daily Collection are usually double-sided. So one side in this case is gold foil, and the other side is a kind of dark, I'm not sure it's quite black. It might just be like a dark green or a dark brown kind of thing. So just keeping that in mind as you still saw me gluing down photos on top of patterns. And so we're nearing the end. I hope you're getting an idea of how the tip and tape works. Please tell me down below if you've used the tip and tape before, if this is something new for you. I've had it probably for a few months now. And I know it might be a lot more popular in the journaling and planner communities, but it is quite handy for this scrapbooking process. And for creating interactive pages, I thought that it would save me time, which is why I wanted to try it out for this layout. So just gonna pop that in, smooth the edge down. I left the photo slightly larger than the journal card because I felt like it looked cute at the time. And so, but then forgetting that the side would have had to line up, the two sides would have had to line up because of the tipping tape. Um, Potato Panamo. Maybe could have no, because then the glue would have ended up facing upward, but not on a genuine card. It would have glued to that front flap. So anyway, in the end, I ended up covering it with, and I really quite like how it looked. So going through the papers to just get through some of the final bits and pieces down. At this point in time, I am thinking that I would have done a double flip out for that other 4x6 photo, and then continued a flip out for this 3x4 one. I have used most of my well, pretty much almost all of the green and gold and, kind of neutral tone journal cards to this project. So what's left is mainly the reds and a few other things. Probably patterns that were on journal cards that I used for the journal cards, but the patterns are recurring in the 6x8 papers. I tried to mix it up a bit. And then I'm just seeing here that I wanted to have that floral done. I wanted to see it a bit more in the back as well as a border. So I cut this photo down a bit more than I've cut the others down. I did that as well for that green and white pattern paper because there was the green and white pattern on one side, but there was a frame. So the green and white pattern created a frame on the inside. So I thought it would be cute if the photo fits into the frame. And so now I'm just doing my last tipping for this layout because I decided not to do tipping for the 4x6 photo and to go in a completely different direction. So I'm excited to show you where that goes because I think it might be one of my favorite spots in this entire layout. So just sticking that down, and I love how it all looks. I have my little pull out and just smooth it down like that. So now I have all my flaps in place. It's a lot of flaps, but surprisingly, when these fall down, they fall down quite flat. So they're not as thick as I thought they would be. I mean, you're talking about photos and journal cards, a few layers of them, and the layout in and of itself is still pretty flat. So I really love this technique, and I'm pretty sure I will use this again for something else. So now we have the twisted season card. I was thinking I'll be a flip up. I'm just gonna write in my journaling, and I kind of really like seeing this twisted season card facing up. And so that's when the wheels start tuning for me to make a bit of a switcheroo for this layout. So just writing in my journaling here, and that's all done. And I add in a flag. This is like my second to last flag. I've used these so much in my pages so far. They just they're unassuming, but they make the cutest little additions to our layouts. And so I'm just adding it with a star, first twist the season. And once that's done, I decide to not do a flip out and I decide to simply adhere this journal card in position. So putting another star up there is one of the ideas I have for this. And then also, just keeping it simple, handwritten journaling, I thought would be a nice touch. Seeing that it's a tradition that means so much to me. I look forward to putting up the tree every year with my family. I loved doing this with my daughter for the first time. And I love us choosing our tree every year. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the season. And so I also probably have a second story to tell, which I may tell behind this tag. But our lights started flickering at night. So we put this up in the afternoon. We forgot to test the lights before we put it up. And when we put on the lights, I mean, they were fine at first because we did have them on. You can see, even though it was daytime, that there was some specks coming through in some of the photos. But somehow at night, it just started flickering. And now that I'm thinking about it, maybe we need to put it directly into the wall versus into an outlet. But we had to buy new lights and they're on their way. So I guess this weekend we're gonna put up some new lights. So I love this paper and I have to use it. I always love these florals from Paisley Press and I hated that I wanted to cut it down. So that's why I paused for a moment and I decided to stick down these embellishments in the meantime. So these little die cut pieces are also unassuming. They are in the kit. And I thought they'd just make some nice flat embellishments. In addition to, we have this, I was going to say elaborate booklet. So I didn't want anything too bulky, so I'm looking at the chipboard and I'm thinking I really don't want chipboard inside. Much rather it was outside. So just decisions like that while putting something like this together is very, very critical. And so I'm just kind of playing around with the bits and pieces that are available. And I am simply adding these all to the layout. I play around with these quite a bit. And as you can see, anything would do. Like this is quite nice and chic, having one on top, one below, because it looks like, they are notches. I mean, they've been great tabs. This would have been a good tab. This circle on the edge would have been a good tab to open up the page. And so we just have quite a few things to play around with. I pull out the greens and the creams and the neutral tones again. I'm adding some gold stars from the star kit here. These are some satiny gold coated stickers. So another flat element here, but just to jazz it up a bit before wrapping this layout up. So I actually end up using the green circle chipboard here. And I quite like how that looked and how that came out. I am pulling out some of the bird pieces I have around the tree, which is perfect because this entire booklet is around the tree. And so I'm thinking about where I can pop it in. It would have been really cute on any of these photo edges as well. Just to bring, some interest to these photos. I feel like they're interesting enough. But I love every single placement of this word is quite cute. And so I keep flip-flopping through until I've kind of decided where I want it to go. So I am also going through to see what else is there, what else I can use, what other word strips are in the colors that are present and things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. That there is quite a few matching bits and pieces to work with. And so once I'm done doing that, I decided I want to do some sort of washi edge on this, which I don't usually do. But I do have this set of scalloped washi tapes, which I quite love. And I do enjoy using them in situations like this because it just makes it all look like a scallop. I feel as well like I have some scallop washi that doesn't have, it's this is white washi with a green scallop on it. And so I have it in like 10 colors, which is a really lovely set. I will link this down below for you. But I also have some washi tape that have 12 scallops, which is quite fun. So this one was at hand. It was right next to me like that. So I decided to pull it out. And it is a brighter green than I've used throughout the layout. But when I'm looking at the large photo, there are some yellowy bright greens up top. And so I felt like it was quite fitting to just add in some lighter greens to just lift the tones a bit. And I love how that turned out. I thought of adding some other embellishment on there. But in the end, I add one of those ivory tabs, which I really love. And I really, really enjoy how this layout came together. Like, when you're doing a layout and sometimes you're not sure, you're like, you have this idea in your head of what you want to do, and create you create your photos, you plan everything out. And then when you're putting it together, you're like, I'm not sure about this one. And I feel like once I started seeing the tip and tape on the photo peeking through, I was like, not too sure how this should look in its entirety. I felt like I was wrapping a gift with, scotch tape. uh, I know every country probably calls it something different, but I just didn't feel comfortable until I started embellishing it. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the layout of my dreams. And I adore it. I mean, I've had situations like that before where I am completely and utterly like, is this it? Is this on? Is this, yeah. This is what I want to be making. I mean, it's a lot of product that I'm using. And that's the thing too with these summer daily things. We use a lot of our products and a lot of our favorites. And it's like, is this what I want to be using this for? But I adore where this landed. And I love how beautiful and subtle and elegant it looks from the top, with just the white and gold paper, just a few embellishments. But then when you open it, there's so much more to it. I just love. And underneath the surface, it's like an iceberg type layout. There's so much more to it. So just going through and slowly adding my embellishments. I decide not to rush this too much. I realize that there's a bow on both sides next to each other. So I contemplate kind of covering up that bow a bit. And I think I might. I'm not sure what I do in the end. I think in the end, I'd probably just leave it because I know I'm being a bit silly. But I love bows, and I didn't mind seeing it in the end. So yeah, just playing around again with bits and pieces. I love these little notch things. I didn't use both of them. I'm seeing that I didn't use them, so I will definitely have to use them for something else. And so I use this circle here, and I add in any of these things would have been quite fine. In a layout like this where you already have so much photo and you've invested time into the journal cards and the bits, like your embellishments at this point, you want to keep it, I don't know. I guess it depends. It depends on what you have energy for. For me, I just wanted to move on from 6 so that I can finish up 7 to 9, because we have such a big weekend this weekend with, like, I feel like this weekend is the busiest weekend of our month. And so in my mind, I'm like, I need to get as many of the layouts done like as possible before the weekend, because then by next week, I don't want to be, hitting mid to late December with too many more layouts to do. So that was part of me is like, oh, okay, so I just wanted to get this done. But another part of me was like, what, I want to savor this layout and the creating of this layout. And for me, that's always a tug and pull of December Daily. I love this project with all my heart and with all my soul. And I'm always straddling between do less, keep it simple, do more because you love it and you're having fun. And I guess, it's probably like life. You just have to have the right balance of moderation and fun and having a good time but still being efficient, because we have cookies to bake, still cakes to make, activities to do, plans that we've made that we can't go back on or that we feel like we can't go back on. So December is and probably will always be a month of complete contradictions. I love hanging out with the kids and I love seeing what they're up to. I also kind of try not to put too much in our calendar because, nap time is still very important for us. So it's been a really big balance. It's also summer here, and it is probably to me my hottest summer here so far. Um, so that's been a drawback for me as well. Because while I love doing things, I feel like the daytime is so hot that I have to do things in the late afternoon or early morning, or just kind of try to pace ourselves. So it's been quite exciting. I love these wooden trees. Realized that I haven't used them so far and thought they would be cute because it's a tree layout. So I pull these out, and these three look really cute now that I'm looking at it from this perspective. They would have been really great just centered and just with some space in between. But because I wanted them back to back or next to each other, side by side, touching, I ended up using two. But I feel like for a future layout as well, I could just do three with a title and some journaling below for like just a nice simple layout. Um, and so yeah, this is where we're at with the embellishments. And so now I'm just going to kind of wrap it all up and bring it all together. So we have, for example, this tab, which is really great. And just popping that tab on there and stapling it on. First, I just glued on. I thought it was fine, but when I revisited the layout in the night, just some bits were peeling up a bit, so I did add in my tiny attacher, tiny staple. I'm just going through to see where to add some tabs. For me, this is the first year I've seen the ivory tabs, and I guess it goes in well with the modern vintage theme of the collection. I am a beige, cream, gold, neutral, girly. So anything ivory really speaks to me in this, and especially in this collection. So I loved having like that festive mode pick up, but keeping it on below the photo. I thought about just configuring some of these baubles. I am also curious, guys. My desk is becoming inundated with product, and I know that I need to tidy up. I try to tidy up it's at the end of the night. But because I finished so late, so my scrapbooking, I'm like, I would do the tidy up tomorrow. But tomorrow comes and I have a new layout to do, guys. So I'm like, I could work with this. I could work on this table. I could find everything still. But I think I really need to tidy up. Just pack away some things before jumping into my layout 7 to 9. I hope you really love my 7 to 9 layout. Tell me, let me know. Um, Sign up for notifications if you haven't already and subscribe to my channel. I hope you're a subscriber. I mean, I love that you're here and I love seeing you and chatting with you. Leave a comment below, please. Let's just finish up this layout. So adding in just bits and pieces that I've found, and then I decide to add a pocket. I love pockets so much. And I did not want to cut this paper down, but I felt like using a full panel would have been a bit too much. I guess alternatively, I could, if I didn't have the, well, I could have just pop it in as the inside of the booklet, maybe. That would have been nice, and then added the photos on top of it. But I'd already added the photos, and I didn't think to it that I could reprint the photos at that time. So I decided a pop would be nice to kind of break up, photos on the right, hit lower left, and then a tag is gonna go in there. So just wrapping this up, I love this die cutting machine because it sits right behind me now on my desk. My other die cutting machine needs a whole shelf, but this sits right behind me, so I could just pull it quickly. It doesn't take up a lot of space. So now folding this down and into position, I'm just going to use some tacky glue. I thought about using double-sided tape or red line tape, but those tapes are so secure. I felt like if I needed to shift it slightly, it would have already stuck to the page, and I couldn't handle any tearing happening at this late stage of the game because, guys, that would have been dramatic. So I am said, let me use my trusty tacky glue. It gives me time and space to shift things around if I need to. I use the grid to keep my things lined up pretty well and for my spacing. That's really, really handy for like a layout like this, which is on the grid, on the grid, and not off the grid. And just being able to space it up quite nicely. So love how that turned out. I am seeing that I wanted to add a strip below that photo on the right. So I would probably look for something to add in, maybe like a long word phrase sticker because I don't want it to be too bulky. I found this Peace and Joy bit from the collection, which I thought was nice because the photo on top is me with my eyes closed, hugging my kids after the tree is done. And the photo below is my husband doing a dance break, dancing around with the 2 kids. So peace on top, joy below. Perfect sentiment for these photos. I am cutting this down to 3.5 width till it fits in a pocket. Then using my work tool to get this into a tag evenly. I love the work tool for just creating simple tags. I have tag dies and I have, I use tags with my Cricut and whatnot. But I also quite enjoy using my works for this. So just getting that done and punching in the middle. It needs to be centered. It goes up to 3 inches on the sides. And so I just centered it within those a bit outside of those markers. At this point, you could add an island if you wanted a bit more texture on the whole, or those like island stickers as well. I cut my ribbon too short at first. I don't know what I was thinking. I was probably thinking about something else, oh no, I was thinking I would pass it through, not double it up, but actually pass it through and then tie a bow on top of it. Of course, I didn't remember that at the time, and I tried to do a little knot. So I cut that, and then I remember that I have these velvet ribbons, guys, that I bought from Amazon, and I haven't opened them. because I love velvet ribbons. I felt like this is a year for velvet. Um, I wish I could tie a bow really nicely, but I need to watch some tutorials on YouTube. Because I would love to have bows on my Christmas tree. I was looking for some ready-made ones in the right colors. I haven't quite found the right color. So I did not order one yet. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I feel like I want to just order some tonight. Anyway, so just using this green, I feel like the olive. All of these are I love this gold. I feel like this would look really nice. And I feel like this one would look lovely too, this green. These are all stunning. And then there's this other green too. Decisions, let's make a decision. I go with that olivey thinner green because the holes are a bit small. And because I also want to use some of the smaller holes or smaller tags on top of this tag. So I prefer the smallest one, which is why I bought this tiny velvet ribbon anyway. And now that I have it, I feel like I want to get a red just in case because I have the green and the gold, so red would just be all I need. So thinking about adding this peace and joy as a tag, but not quite sure. I also pull out these white tags and these labels. The December traditions was a nice one too. I mean, this could have been stuck onto it as well versus trying to use it as a tag. But my battery died, and this is what it all looks like in the end. So I have this happening here, and I have my flip out. As you saw, I love adding in like those gifts and the traditions. I could add in some things on those if I wanted, but I'm not quite sure. So I have the final joy. I also go in and I add this circle here as a tab. So I love how that looks. And this is the end. I added those on top. So thank you so much for being here and watching my video. I hope to see you in the next video. Please let me know in the comments down below how the summer daily is going for you, what you're most excited about creating this season, and I can't wait to share with you in the next video. Bye!